Visalia, California, nestled in the heart of California's Central Valley, is the fifth largest city in the San Joaquin Valley and is part of Tulare County. It's very well known for its agricultural productivity, but just like many other parts of California, over the last few decades, it's been heavily infiltrated with the presence of Southern and Northern Hispanic gangs, willing to do anything to gain power and respect. Noel "Guilty" Herrera, a very well-known Sureno gang member, a very violent and active Sureno gang member from around 2010 to 2017, would participate and carry out multiple murders, claiming the lives of 3 victims. As the case wound its way through the courts and ultimately ended up in the death penalty phase, the facts, the truth, and the overall shocking crimes that took place shone another spotlight on the willingness that many of these gangs are willing to go to claim that power and to claim that respect. Individuals like Noel "Guilty" Herrera stand head and shoulders above many of their peers as they are willing to go to extreme lengths in the furtherance of the gang.
Police announced this morning the arrest of a man tied to 3 gang-related murders dating back to 2010. They also arrested another man for being the driver in one of those homicides. Action News South Valley reporter Brian Johnson joins us live at the Tulare County pretrial facility where the main suspect had a court hearing this afternoon. Brian.
Graciela and Margot, Noel Herrera is being held here without bail. He is charged with 3 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, along with a very long list of special circumstances and allegations.
You're charged with special circumstance murder from January 9, 2010.
29-year-old Noel Herrera made his first court appearance on the murder charges Tuesday afternoon. His alleged accomplice in one of those murders, Fabio Del Real, will likely be arraigned later this week. The suspects, both Sureno gang members, were already serving time at state prisons and were recently brought back to Tulare County after a years-long investigation into 3 gang-related homicides by the Visalia Police Department. A break in the case came in February of last year when a CHP officer pulled Herrera over in the Tulare area.
That was communicated to the Visalia Police Department violent crimes detectives because the vehicle that Noel Herrera was driving matched the suspect vehicle description from the homicide that occurred the night before on the 18th, as well as the suspect vehicle description from the shooting that occurred on the 15th at Feimster and Watson.
Police also took Herrera's gun during that traffic stop and sent it to the Department of Justice lab in Fresno, where Chief Jason Salazar says it matched the firearm used in the drive-by shooting death of a 21-year-old outside of a home where a birthday party was happening and a drive-by shooting a few nights before. Police say Herrera was the shooter in 2 other killings, one in January of 2010, another in April of 2014. Del Real is charged with murder for being the driver in that case. Although those cases are older, authorities say they never stopped working them, developing leads, witnesses, and evidence.
But thanks to the dedication of the men and women and the Visalia Police Department, no victim was forgotten, no voice was forgotten, and this case continued to be developed along the way.
And Chief Salazar says they're continuing to investigate all of these cases for the purposes of seeing if anyone else may have been involved. Now, both of these suspects face the possibility of life in prison without parole. Live in Tulare County, Brian Johnson, ABC 30 Action.
Men are behind bars tonight accused of 3 murders, one of them dating back to the year 2010. 29-year-old Noel Herrera and 33-year-old Fabio Del Real are in custody tonight. CBS 47's Gregory Woods was at the Visalia Police headquarters when authorities made the announcement.
Police say Del Real was the driver in one of the deadly shootings, and Herrera was the gunman behind the 3 murders. That left 26-year-old Diego Lupercio, 25-year-old Larry Knight, and 21-year-old Eduardo Ceballos dead.
This is really almost 8 years of hard work.
February 2017, police say Eduardo Ceballos was shot and killed at the 1700 block of North Leslie Avenue. Police say he was standing in front of his home when a car pulled up, opened fire, and took off. April 2014, police say Larry Knight was shot and killed in a gang shooting near Linwood Street and Tulare Avenue. In January of 2010, authorities say Diego Lupercio was shot and killed in a gang shooting near Giddings and Elwyn. Visalia Police Chief says Noel Herrera was the gunman in all of the murders, and Fabio Del Real was the driver in the shooting at Linwood and Tulare Streets. Their arrest came after a routine traffic stop.
And in that stop, recovered a firearm that was ultimately identified as being used in these crimes.
The assistant district attorney says if convicted, the two can face life in prison.
When a crime occurs, the community is expecting an instant result, and it doesn't always happen that way. But thanks to the dedication of the men and women and the Visalia Police Department, no victim was forgotten.
The chief hopes the arrest of these two sends a message to other gang members of how long they will investigate a case until the perp is caught.
Whether it happens right away or it takes a few years to put together, we will not let up.
Police say Herrera faces 3 homicide charges along with an attempted homicide charge, and Del Real faces 1 homicide charge along with other enhancements.
A violent weekend in Visalia, the likes most residents there rarely see. 3 separate shootings, 2 killed, multiple others hospitalized. Our Liv Johnson joining us live now from Visalia Police Department with new developments. Liv, good evening.
Good evening, Alexandre. Well, the officers that I spoke with are just as shocked as the citizens of Visalia. This city has had 9 homicides so far this year, and 2 of those 9 took place on Sunday. Police are still searching for suspects in 2 out of the 3 shootings.
Honestly, I don't remember a weekend where we've experienced this kind of activity in such close proximity to each other.
3 separate shootings in just 3 days have left the Visalia Police Department on the hunt for suspects and answers. It started on Friday evening when a man was shot at Whittendale Park and transported to the hospital,
where he is now currently listed in critical but stable condition.
On Sunday, police say a man shot and killed his ex-girlfriend in the Mary's Vineyard parking lot before turning the gun on himself. According to police, the 2 were meeting there for a child custody exchange, but no children were present. The man is now in critical condition at Kauai Health Medical Center.
We're still investigating what exactly occurred between them that precipitated this, but we can tell you that they were in a previous relationship with each other and did have some children in common.
While police handled the scene at Mary's Vineyard, Short says the department received a call regarding an assault near East Myrtle Avenue, where one man was found with a gunshot wound and later died at the hospital. Short says the department is searching for suspects in the shootings at Whittendale Park and East Myrtle.
Our detectives are working very diligently on all 3 cases and are handling them all at the same time.
If anyone has information regarding any of these cases, you can contact the Visalia Police Department. Reporting live in Visalia, I'm Liv Johnson, KC24.
Investigators say the far-reaching criminal enterprise was headquartered at Monument Plaza in Concord. KPIX5's Juliet Goodrich is there now. Juliet?
And I'm in the middle of this shopping center where all of this illegal activity went down. And look, in broad daylight, very busy. This alleged gang really was no stranger to this area, and that is why the crackdown happened. State, local, and federal officials joining forces. They called this Operation Boulevard Blues. FBI agents say the Sureno Gang members took control of this shopping center parking lot and others, turning them into a one-stop shop for guns and drugs.
The defendants are alleged to have sold methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and firearms in Concord, Pleasant Hill, Brentwood, and elsewhere in Contra Costa County.
26 defendants in custody, 74 guns seized or purchased by undercover law enforcement agents, including AK-style assault weapons and so-called ghost guns. The FBI says the firearms sold have been linked to shootings and homicides in Concord and Richmond.
These cold cases from 2014 and 2015 actually involve multiple Sureno Gang members. 3 of the homicides occurred in Concord and 1 in Antioch.
The guns and drugs allegedly sold in broad daylight and in public spaces. A shock to some who live and shop in the area.
I'm a little surprised just because we're here a lot and we've never noticed any activity at all.
This Safe Streets Task Force started back in April 2019 because of problematic gang activity.
When gangs become established in our neighborhoods, the public and our most vulnerable are the ones who get caught in the crossfire and suffer the consequences.
Today, Concord is safer, families are safer, kids are safer.
Yeah, Juliet, this is a pretty large-scale crackdown for Contra Costa County. Have they seen anything on this magnitude before?
You know, they had a similar crackdown a couple of years ago, a rival gang then, and they were able to make dozens of arrests. Fast forward 2 years now, and they have this other gang that's come and erupted in this Contra Costa County area. What they're trying to do is disrupt the gangs, and they do believe they have the ringleaders behind bars.
All right, Juliet Goodrich reporting live from Concord. Thank you, Juliet.
Are now in custody in Visalia after a 7-year investigation into 3 separate homicides. Visalia police say 29-year-old Noel Herrera is suspected of killing 3 people from 2010 to 2017. The victims are 26-year-old Diego Lapercio, 25-year-old Larry Knight, and the third, and 21-year-old Eduardo Sabias. Officers say all 3 victims were shot and killed by Herrera. A second suspect, 33-year-old Fabio Del Real, was also arrested in connection to the death of Larry Knight III. Officers say Del Real was driving the vehicle. Herrera was inside when he shot and killed Knight. The district attorney has filed a felony complaint charging Herrera with first-degree murder in all 3 homicides. Both Herrera and Del Real will be arraigned this afternoon.
Recommended a death sentence for a convicted South Valley murderer. 32-year-old Noel Herrera was found guilty last week for 3 killings carried out in Visalia between 2010 and 2017. The known gang member was finally arrested following a traffic stop that led to a search of his vehicle. Officers recovered a gun which was later linked to a murder just 3 days prior to his arrest. Formal sentencing is scheduled for March 15th.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lake Gang TV. Appreciate you guys checking out the channel. I've been grinding out. I really got to feel like a good flow going. I'm trying to bring you guys a video I want to say every day, but at least every 2 days. I got one in the chamber right now that I'm super excited to bring you guys. Once again, I'm just fighting with YouTube and their ad guidelines. Channels like mine, I can't speak for other channels that I like and follow, but I'm sure they run into the same issues. So yeah, I've got a really good one that I'm really excited to bring you guys. Case made some national attention, but just tied in with some prison gang stuff and a revenge murder. Just really pumped up. Hopefully I get that cleared up today or tomorrow. But anyway, today we're going to be covering the case of Noel Guilty Herrera and one of his co-gang members, Fabio Del Rio. Although Fabio Del Rio he's just kind of a small portion of this. The guy we're focusing on is Noel Guilty Herrera, I would call him now infamous Sureno Gang member from Visalia, California. Visalia, California, like I said in the intro, located in the San Joaquin Valley. Really beautiful, beautiful, stunning area, known for its agricultural productivity. Thriving area in that department. Beautiful area in Central California. But just like every other, town in I feel like area in California and cities and states all over, there's always that underbelly. There's always that underworld. And in particular with the southern and northern Hispanic gangs, it's no different. So, Noel, whose street name is Guilty Herrera, very active gang member, like I said, in Visalia, California. I do kind of like looking up some of these cities that I'm always bringing you guys, kind of like bringing a little history on it. So I looked up Visalia, California, and it was first settled around native tribes settled there in the area at least hundreds of years ago. And then obviously the white guy showed up and they actually started writing and recording things down. And this is going back to like 1800s. At the time, this is in now we jump up to 1852. It wasn't yet San Joaquin Valley or Tulare County wasn't even established. It was all wrapped up in basically one it's Mariposa County. So at the time it only had the guy was writing down, and his name was Nathaniel Weiss. He was writing down the town only had 60 to 80 inhabitants. Half of them were kids. And it was located in a beautiful area on the Kauai River. And then, so this guy, Nathaniel Weiss, he's predicting that it was going to be a thriving area. And about a year later, that came true. And Visalia is actually named after this guy, Nathaniel Weiss' ancestral home in Visalia, Kentucky. So just like to give you guys a little tidbit of information, maybe something you guys didn't already know. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So March 2018, Noel Guilty Herrera and Fabio Del Rio are arrested with the connection of these 3 homicides that took place in Visalia, California. Now, the interesting part about these 3 homicides is, a lot of times these guys, they'll go on a spree over the course of maybe a couple of days, maybe a week, and then they get caught. Well, no, this took place between 2010 and 2017. So Noel Herrera, Fabio Del Rio, they're arrested and charged with homicide and gun crimes. Now, at the time, both of them were already in jail serving time for gun crimes. Noel Herrera was charged with 3 homicides, 1 attempt, and other gang-related crimes. Fabio Del Rio was just charged with 1 gang-related homicide. Both men were already in prison on gun possession charges. Now, something to remember that we've talked about on this channel. When you see gang-related homicide, we're like, well, it's a homicide, right? No. So, like we've said, if you are a gang member, if you have a family who's in a gang or a loved one, man, they're going to book your ass because it's called enhancements. So it's not just a homicide, which is bad enough. Okay, now it's a gang-related homicide. So that's how you get life plus 10, right? And what it means is it's going to make it hard for you to go in front of that board. And we go, well, what's the board? The board is the parole board, all right? So they're going to really tighten your ass down, and they're going to make it very hard for you to eventually, maybe, hopefully, try to get out. And I am a firm believer in reform. As a recovering addict, I tell people that and don't get me wrong, I'm not some, I can't lie to you, man. I focus on my recovery. I wish I could say that I'm out helping people every single day. I'm not going to front, right? I try to help people I can. People want to talk about things, I'm there. Take people out for breakfast because, I don't know, maybe you guys in the comments can speak to this if any of you are recovering addicts or if any of you have done time. But a lot of guys I know that are recovering addicts or have done time, we like to get up early. And I'm one of those. I'm a morning guy, right? So in jail, them lights flick on, them godforsaken fluorescent lights flick on at 5:30 a.m. for some chow. And then you got to do count and everything. And it's just, and then getting sober, popping out of bed in the morning. It's what I do. I love going to breakfast. My girlfriend and friends that haven't lived that life are like, what is with you and going out to breakfast? But I don't know. Maybe you guys can speak to that down below. I'm just a big morning guy. I think the morning's a huge way to start off your day, especially in recovery. I say a quick prayer before my feet hit the ground to God. I give the day to you, and I wish or I hope that you guide me in the right direction. Sorry, I don't mean to be going off on a tangent, but I just think about that kind of stuff, and I wish you guys all the best. Please get sober, get the help. And this is why, man, because, I don't even know these individuals, but I just think about it because I do these stories and I see these gang members or people in the streets and people I know plenty. Like I said, never been in a gang, nothing like that. Never put in no work in the street, but I was in the streets because of the choices I was making. And it just is a sad existence. Now, I will say, with these Hispanic prison gangs and guys that are really about that life, there is the goal, and you can watch in interviews with people that they've interviewed on certain platforms where it's a goal of these Hispanic guys, these gang members on the street. Their goal is to get to prison because that's where the big dogs are at. That's where the La M members, the Nuestra Familia, other gangs, that's where you want to go make your bones and get up in the ranks. That's where you got to go. So, anyway, going back to Noel Herrera, Fabio Del Rio. On January 9th, 2010, Diego Luperso, 26 years old, was shot and killed in a gang-related shooting in the area of Giddings in Eloan. Suspect, Noel Guilty Herrera, he was arrested and charged on that. This is when he was picked up. This is one of the cases he was on. Okay? So remember, Fabio Del Rio didn't participate in all these. Noel Guilty Herrera, this is all him. On April 24th, 2014, a guy by the name of Larry Knight III was 25 years old. He was shot and killed in another gang-related shooting while walking in the area of Linwood Street and Tulare Ave. Suspect Noel Herrera was identified as the shooter in the case, and this is where Fabio Del Rio comes in. He was identified as the driver. Both suspects were arrested and charged for that case. But again, they're all arrested for all of these, okay? They weren't individually arrested at the time that these took place. I just don't want to confuse you guys. On February 15th, 2017, 2 victims were in the area of Feimster and Watson when shots were fired at them from a vehicle. Suspect Noel Guilty Herrera had been identified as being one of the suspects in the case. The victims were not injured. Suspect Noel Guilty Herrera was also arrested for that. On February 18th, 2017, Eduardo Ceballos and another victim were standing in front of a residence in the 1700 block of North Leslie. A vehicle stopped in front of the residence, and one of the occupants of the vehicle fired a gun at the victim and fled. Victim Eduardo Ceballos died from gunshots he received. The other victim survived his injuries, so they were dumping on him, man. A lot of times, drive-bys, they claim lives, but a lot of times, you're hitting the house or maybe you hit him in the leg or something. But man, and I don't want to say that the wrong way. Plenty of people pass away, but just to hear that, man, dude, this Noel Guilty Herrera, he wasn't just out there firing off, kind of looking the part. He was shooting to cause maximum damage. And then on February 19, 2017, violent crimes detectives were notified that California Highway Patrol officers had arrested Noel Guilty Herrera during a traffic stop. A firearm was located in his possession, and it ties him to shooting 2 victims on February 15, 2017, as well as the murder of victim Eduardo Ceballos, the guy that was out in front of the house, on February 18, 2017. The vehicle suspect Herrera was driving also matched the suspect in 2 of those cases as well. So he's arrested in 18. The case winds its way through the courts, and then March of 2022 in Porterville, California. 32-year-old. So he was in his kind of late 20s, mid to late 20s when he's doing all this stuff. And then at the time when sentencing rolls around, 32-year-old Noel Herrera was sentenced to death in March of 2022 in a county superior court in Porterville. Herrera was found guilty in committing multiple murders from 2010 to 2017. Herrera is also known by his gang name Guilty, a known Sureno Gang member. Investigators say Herrera committed his first shooting murder on January 9th, 2010, and that's when he shot and killed Diego Lupercio. And he's also found guilty of the Larry Knight and all the other shootings. And all of the crimes took place in Visalia, California. So, he was found guilty of premeditated first-degree murder for all the killings, February 3rd, 2020. He was also found guilty of, 2022. He was also found guilty of special circumstances and allegations that the crimes constituted multiple murders and that Herrera personally used a firearm. In addition, the jury convicted Herrera of another premeditated murder and shooting at the occupied vehicle on February 15th, 2017. A Visalia gang member, guilty, and that is Noel Herrera, was sentenced to death in March of 2022. Just crazy. So, really quick though, in California, your guys' wonderful governor, Gavin Newsom, I am going to give a little bias on this. I don't think he's a good governor. If you really watch the news on him, this guy all he's trying to do is work on becoming a presidential candidate. I feel like California is a beautiful state. It has a ton to offer. I was in LA last year, about 9-10 months ago. It is awesome. I love it down there. But I feel like someone like a Newsom is just not doing a good job. I feel like he's not taking public safety seriously. I'm all for prison reform. I'm all for not throwing the book at juveniles. I'm all for giving people second chances, even third chances. But you can't just make these law enforcement officers or these prosecutors' jobs impossible, because at the end of the day, even if you do not like police, even if you despise authority, guys, you have to have some sense of safety. Your community has to have a sense of safety. There has to be rules. There has to be laws. Trust me, man, I am the last person that's going to stick up for police or any of that, but you have to have rules. You can't just be letting people out doing whatever they want and slap them on the wrist for, hey, you committed 2 murders. Okay, well, don't do it again. It's like, no, man, you got to have that. And there are cases, I believe, that constitute the death penalty. And I would just say, put yourself in the shoes of some of these people's families who were brutally murdered at the hands of some gang member or serial killer, and just think about that. The state's last execution was back in 2006, lethal injection of a guy named Clarence Ray Allen from a murder in the 80s. So just fascinating, really interesting story, guys. Thank you so much for checking everything out. Until next time, take care.